But again, I always go back to like why I did this. There are so many things that I lost from leaving my previous employer, but all of those things that I gained far outweigh what was lost.
Good morning. We will get started on a pretty August day and excited to be together again and excited to spend time with Mitch, who I've known for quite a few years, going back to engineer Mitch before he became entrepreneur Mitch. But he had some entrepreneurial bones in him. He was doing some cool things even in the engineer community when he started to bring people together and figured that basketball was a good way to meet up and build relationships. And that was a non-traditional networking kind of move that he created. And he's just had this flair for going all in on being Mitch and doing things that were authentic and real for him and required courage. And I'm a big admirer of what you've done, Mitch, of just really plunging all in on entrepreneurship to go build your business and build a family and build a community, and you're just doing so many cool things. Why don't we go back early and talk about, what inspired you early to go down that engineering path, and then when did these entrepreneurial mindsets start to creep in along the way?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Randy. Yeah, it's been, I was even just talking to my wife before this. I was like, I'm actually getting on the call with a guy that I knew when I was selling cooling towers for the longest time. And now we're talking about nothing but cooling tower, or not talking about cooling towers, but other stuff. But yeah, so, I kind of grew up in a traditional family where it was go be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, go get the corporate job, and you'll live a healthy, strong financial life. And that was kind of what was instilled in me, was a financial piece of life was kind of your self-worth a little bit. And that's what kind of pushed me towards doing the mechanical engineering. I went to Mizzou, did mechanical engineering for 4.5 years, and then moved to Kansas City. Actually worked for SPX Cooling Technologies when Randy was the president over there back in, I think that was 2011, 2012. And then found out that I really did not enjoy sitting behind a computer all day, every day, doing the same tasks. So I was fortunate enough to find an organization that was actually selling the piece of equipment, which I got into the sales side of things. And I really, really enjoyed the strategy behind sales, the relationships, and the competition that came with sales. It really just kind of hit home with me, and really thrived in that environment. Had a lot of fun building that here locally in Kansas City, and was fairly successful in that. I think one of the biggest things that kind of sparked my entrepreneurial spirit was when I went over to the organization. Um, I had a leader in that organization, but I had to go build my own book of business. And I didn't know the first thing about sales. We had a guy in St. Louis that would come in town about once every week, maybe even twice a week, that would just grab me and take me out of the office, and we'd go knock on doors. We'd go look for cooling towers are outside hospitals and figure out our way through the tunnels of a hospital to the facilities management, and just really kind of realize that once I was able to get in the door, that fear of having that first conversation was immediately gone as soon as I would say hi, because at that point you just had those 10 seconds of courage to say hello. And then at that point you just had to keep having the conversation so you didn't act weird or awkward or anything. So that's really where I learned to build my book of business. And after a couple of years of doing that, I started recognizing that I had people that were calling me back to see if I could come in and help versus continuously cold calling. So it really solidified this relationship type mentality of building that and going out and creating whatever value I could to those individuals. And if and when the time came that they needed something, I was in a position to be a good resource for them. So that really solidified that drive of, you know what, I can go out and create something out of nothing with the right resources, with the right tools, with the right leadership around me to teach me those things. So got involved with that. And Randy, you mentioned like I started this basketball thing because I was trying to figure out some creative way to network. it really came because I was calling on a bunch of engineers, and I'd invite one out to have a one-on-one conversation to build that relationship. And some of the engineering firms I was working with had 300, 400 employees with it, and they would invite 5 or 6 of their friends to come and have lunch with us. So then the conversation itself would be monopolized. We really wasn't able to dive deep with each of those individuals to get to know them, learn about their families, the things that they like to do outside of work. And I would still have to swipe the credit card for a $200 lunch and not really get much out of it. So I literally went to a couple of those individuals and said, what will you do outside of lunch that we can get out of this environment where you feel like you have to talk about work or business, and let's just get to know each other. And so a couple of them said that they like playing basketball. So now there's this misconception that I'm this stud basketball player and I wanted to go play basketball, and it's far from the truth. Everybody knows that if they guard my right side, I go left, and basically I lose control of the ball when I go to the left side. So fortunately, that has it sparked a lot of interest in individuals, and we saw that no longer were we having conversations of, hey, what are you working on? What can I do to help you? In that sense, it was, hey, how's your spouse doing? How are your kids doing? We recognized that people were then having conversations off of the court, getting together and really generating these amazing relationships. And the thing that I love the most, which has really solidified my drive on kind of what I'm doing now, is that each of those relationships started from nothing and were strengthened through this thing that they enjoyed playing together. They had something in common before they even knew each other. And we were able to break down those barriers of that awkwardness when you're talking about networking or having to feel like, and I'll raise my hand as an introvert at heart. I do not like going into large rooms and not knowing anybody with the expectation that I have to go and talk to somebody and hand a business card to somebody. I just wanted to figure out a way that we could get past that piece of it and break down that barrier of that awkwardness. And fortunately, basketball really kind of took off from there. So I did about 8.5 years at the sales organization. And during that time, my wife and I had our first son, and it really sparked the idea of our business, which is now More Than a Meal, to go out and help other people connect and engage with their employees and clients. So Randy, is that good for the background?
That's awesome, Mitch. There's a baseball movie where the dad tells the son, there's a time we need to stop doing what you want to go do and go do what you ought to do. And you're like the reverse of that. It sounds like the first part of your career is you're doing what everybody told you ought to do. And then you said, I think I'm going to do what I want to go do. So let's talk about what you want to go do now. Let's talk about starting a business from scratch.
Yeah. So again, when my wife and I had our first son, it was not kind of the skip in and skip out experience that we had kind of imagined we would have. She developed preeclampsia and ultimately had a C-section, which really kind of knocked her down and out for a few months. And we had some really simple meal kits that people had dropped off in our house. Everything was pre-chopped and pre-diced, and we were just incredibly thankful for that. But we'd actually forgotten about them. So a couple months later, I come home from work after a long day, and she had the opportunity to create these meals. She threw them into a slow cooker, and I remember her just kind of looking at me and saying, I really felt like I helped out today. And it was just one of those moments where it wasn't like the clouds were scattered away. It's just like this ray of sunshine had come back in and kind of put a spark in us. And my wife and I are people of faith, and we've always been kind of challenged to find the different ways to serve people with the gifts that we've been given. And we recognize that these were so impactful for us that we wanted to go out and help other people in Kansas City in that same manner, that maybe don't have that community here in KC, or maybe it's too far of a drive, or everybody's busy and you just forget to bring a meal to somebody. Any different of those scenarios. But we ultimately started this business 3 years ago, and really just kind of, at that point, it was kind of a hobby, or we had a little bit of discretionary income where we could take any of the losses that maybe come on through it and really go out and serve people. And we were fortunate enough to serve about 300 meals to individuals. But as kind of Randy alluded to, I somewhat always like to kind of beat to my own drum in a sense. I had different ideas that I wanted to pursue within the organization I was with previously, and just wasn't able to kind of pursue those to be a little bit more creative and different. And then during the pandemic, a lot of people had these moments of realization of like, well, what is it that I want to do with my life? And those were really starting to have those conversations. I see several people on this call that I've had many conversations with, Randy being one of them as well, of, it just, the passion for what I was doing previously was no longer there. And I really kind of had this realization of I'm ready to bet on myself. And ultimately decided that, if we can get our finances right for a little while and we can put a good business plan together, we can take a run at it. And fortunately, I have a supportive wife that asked me a really simple question of, if you look back in 20 years and you haven't made this decision, would you regret it? And it was just a slap in the face of, I absolutely would regret looking back 20 years and I'm still doing what I'm doing because I didn't bet on myself. So once she asked me that question, it was, all right, when is the next commission check coming? And then I need to put in my 2 weeks and be done. So it was a pretty quick turnaround, and I left back in September of 2020. And all the different things, I'm still running my basketball league, which is Pick Up KC, and we've been fortunate enough to add different sports to that to allow people to network, and also just running full speed with our company, More Than a Meal. Went all in on those September of 2020. So we're 9 months in, 10 months in right now. And it's been an unexpected up and down journey. That's for sure.
So More Than a Meal, you're tailoring primarily, I believe, towards businesses having something they can send out to employees that have had a baby, they're out sick. How are you networking and prospecting and building that pipeline of businesses that understand the value of that relationship with their employees and how that enhances their culture?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm really taking the same approach that I did when I was doing the sales engineering thing. It's really relationship based. We went from selling a couple single meals to now doing more business packages to make it really simple and proactive for businesses. So that was a big change for us when I was kind of looking at what everything looked like for us moving forward, switching from more of a B2C approach with this organization to a B2B approach. So right now, I will still go knock on doors, but I do lean on a lot of my network right now with sales professionals, with HR directors, with small business owners, whoever that may be, that does understand the investment into their employees. And again, we really, really wanted to focus on how we could actually strengthen those valued relationships. So often, and I saw this in my organization before, there was a lot of opportunities to connect and engage, and it didn't hit me until after I'd kind of been on this journey that oftentimes we would send something without the realization of each individual and how we can make that authentic and personalized to that individual. For instance, being in the construction industry, we would have a lot of different bottle openers, and we would send out bottle openers to individuals. And I kind of come to the realization after I had left of, I hope I never sent a bottle opener to somebody that was recovering from alcoholism, because I don't want to be the individual that enables them. And it's not that the gesture itself was a bad gesture. It was just missed by this much, where it could have really been personalized, authentic, and to that individual. We talk about the same thing with food. Like, food is very, very challenging to send as a gift because you do not know if that individual has allergies, or God forbid, maybe a kid or a spouse or something like that has an allergy, and you send this into their home and it's something that they can't enjoy as a family. So we really try to focus on the organizations that want to take that next step. Maybe they've got something in place already and we can tweak it, or maybe they don't have something in place right now and we can really offer a situation where it allows them to be as authentic and personalized as possibly can be. And I know as a salesperson, there's the little things that I always intend to do. I always wanted to remember their birthdays. I always wanted to know when their anniversaries were, or remind myself the name of the kids. And I would always be so busy trying to figure out other things in the other day to day that it was just stuff that I would forget to ask, or I would forget to write it down. And it's those little tiny things that can really go a long ways to help with increasing referrals, potentially even revenue. But most important when it comes to employees, the retention side. So we have served people from recovering from COVID to somebody going through chemotherapy, a loss in the family, newborn babies, just because referral businesses. That's the thing that's been the most exciting as we built this is I don't have a specific lane that we're trying to stay in. We're learning what other individuals, sales professionals, and business owners can see and utilize this service to really personalize and specialize that moment for that individual.
So how does it work if a business signs up with you? How does the program work?
Yeah, so we have different business packages. So essentially, if you have 20 to 25 or more events in a given 6-month period, and an event is whether a positive life event or a negative life event, whatever that may be, organizations are able to buy at a bulk discount. And then we set up actually a personal page for you to come in, use our unique business code that will proactively release those meals. So simply we grab a little bit of the contact information from that individual. We provide a space for you to include a personal note that we go in, write, and include in those meal packages. And then we coordinate delivery of the meals that they select based off of dietary preferences. And we go out and deliver that with our delivery team. We're actually getting ready to release another piece that really helps personalize it. We're working with a lawyer firm right now that they want to be able to have a video that is included when somebody, a referral based video. And we're fortunate now that we've got some processes in place to where if they have a referral, they send that link to an individual that's able to sign up for their meal, but that individual then can just have a personalized video to that individual saying, the referrals are lifeblood of my business. I'm incredibly blessed to have you in my network, and here's dinner on us and the family. So yeah, we just really try to make it as easy as possible for the business owner and the sales professional to be proactive and release those. And then we go ahead and take care of the coordination and the delivery side of things. So you're not inundated with that.
So was there a model you saw and that inspired this idea, or is this basically you just created this, you and your wife came from your own baby experience and you said, wow, this is really cool, I think I can make a business out of this?
The model itself is not unique by any means. I know we had several friends and family, and I know there's churches out there and like I said, friends and family that will put meal trains together and go and deliver these. So it's kind of that concept, but what we really did was just kind of let it go the direction that it was going to go. When I first started this, I was fortunate enough to have a mentor that basically told me, if you're not absolutely embarrassed by what you put out the door day one, then you waited too long to start. And I checked that box. So when we initially started, it was originally called Mommy Meals. We were focusing on new parents only. Somebody would come to our website, which they were confused on how to order anything. So they would call me up and I would figure out how to actually get this released. They'd tell me what meal they wanted. I'd run out to Aldi. I'd pick up the ingredients, unwrap it all, rewrap it in our branding, which was a brown paper bag. I'd handwrite a note and I'd drive out to that individual's house and drop it off and say, congratulations. And we did 300 meals doing that. And I don't know how we did that, but after the realization that about 70 or 80% of our orders were coming from business related situations, that's when we kind of took it to the next level and realized, all right, this is the direction we're now going to go. So the business model itself has continuously changed since we started this, by only selling to consumers and selling one meal kit at a time to now where we're focused on the business side of things. And we still have a consumer piece of it, and we're actually getting ready to release, because of individuals wanting to have meals for themselves, we're going to have a consumer focus again, but the B2B side is where I spend the majority of my time. And again, we went from having a personal note to now somebody saying, I'd actually really like to have a QR code. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody, at a networking event or one-on-one, and they tell me they've had a bad week or something along those lines, they can now scan this QR code and it'll take them to a personal page for that individual to send them a meal. They asked me if I can put it together, and I said, you bet, let's see what happens. And we're kind of testing a lot of these different ideas right now, and like I said, with the video experience is just kind of taken off a little bit with some of the other organizations we work with, that they can pre-record 5 different life event videos, that when that individual is sent a meal, we know what kind of event they're going through, and that allows us to make sure that specific video goes to that individual to let them know that they're thinking about them, whether that's from recovery or just moved into a new house, whatever that may be. We're just really letting it kind of go its own direction. So I would say, like, I don't have a specific business model that I'm following 100%, but it's kind of a conglomerate of a bunch of different ideas that have kind of come together, and we're changing directions constantly and seeing what sticks.
If anyone has questions, let me know in the chat. So you're a year into quitting and going all in. You jumped in with both feet.
One year will be September 11th.
Yeah. So what have you learned in that year? What has surprised you in that year?
Just because you have a good idea does not mean that people will buy from you. That's probably one of the biggest realizations that I've had, because I've never met anybody that said, this is a terrible idea, I don't know why you would ever want to do something like this. It was, this is fantastic idea, ... And I'm like, well, why aren't you buying from me? Because it's a great idea? No. So that's been one of the biggest realizations. I've also, gone from, and I didn't mention this earlier, one of the real big reasons that I left my previous employers, because I was working a ton of hours, and I was missing out on experiences with my 4-year-old, 1-year-old, and we have another baby on the way. So a huge part of me making this leap was to be more present with them and my wife. And it's ironic that I'm probably working more hours than I was before, but I'm very guarded with the hours that I do work right now. So I am able to have my mornings with my wife and my boys, and lunch, and in through the evening. But expectations is something that I have had to kind of let go as well. I've got goals set, and I like to make lofty goals, and sometimes if I don't make those goals, my expectations aren't met. And that even goes down to the parenting level. Like, even this morning, I'm trying to wake up early to be able to get my stuff done. The kids slept until 7 a.m. yesterday, and I'm like, all right, I got at least 2 hours before the kids are up and running. And I get up at 5:15 thinking I've got this time, and then they all wake up at like 5:45 or 6, and that time is shot now. It's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating for me as somebody that really guards their time, and the expectations that I sometimes have to let go and ebb with the flow. There was and I'm going to butcher this quote, but a good friend of mine was really talking about be sturdy with your how did he say that? Be sturdy with your processes, or your oh my gosh, what's the things that I'm trying to think of right now? When you set them in stone, it's your, help me out, Randy, I'm totally blanking on this.
Maybe principles, or
well, not, I mean, be easy with your schedule, in a sense of,
okay.
Yeah, let your schedule kind of flow and ebb as it goes, but your the things you do every day, don't matter what happens, like, those are the things that you do. It's the easiest word and I can't think of it right now, but be flexible with your schedule, but strong in your day-to-day activities, so that you can continue to do those things. So that's where I'm trying to hone in on right now, is that just because I'm not able to get this done right now, there will be other times during the day that I can focus on those, and sometimes those things have to go to the next day, and I'm learning to be okay with that through this process.
Go to Mike Kinney.
Mitch, hey, great stuff.
Hey, Mike.
Just, your entrepreneurial journey, I'll say empathize with you, in terms of growing pains and, product market fit or whatever, even from a nonprofit standpoint, we always try to meet, our clients' expectations. But I think you've done a great job of outlining specifically what it is that you've done. But what would you proffer as your unique value proposition? What sets you apart from everyone else out there, or people that maybe offer something similar? And I know you've touched upon it, but what is, like, I'll say, the concise elevator pitch that, hey, do business with us because this is what we deliver?
Yeah, we've really been trying to hone in on specifically what that looks like. And ultimately, what we're really focused on is helping these organizations strengthen their most valued relationships through proactive, authentic, personal gifting. So things that separate us from, say, going out and getting a Grubhub gift card, or, buying a slab of ribs from OK Joe's or something along those lines. We really focus on the simplicity of everything. Everything is pre-chopped, pre-cooked, or not pre-cooked, pre-chopped, pre-diced, pre-measured. So we really want to get away from having to open up more dishes or anything along those lines. But the thing that really, really does set us apart from other food opportunities, other gifting opportunities, is that personalized message that comes through with that. So whether it be the video messages, and ultimately long term, I want to be able to have unique videos for each individual. But for us right now, we have to have kind of 5 generic videos to be able to do that. But really focusing on the authenticity, to where an individual that receives that understands that they are not a number. They are not essentially just a number that is trying to help this individual or this business kind of grow and receive. It is really focused on, you are a very important individual to our team. Not even we know that they're an asset to the team, but I'm talking about like an individual impact on that person. Because what we can really do through these personalized gifts, is these business owners and HR directors really focus on that. You can now make those employees or those clients advocating for who they work for. And now that creates a different culture, that creates a different environment. So I really try to focus on, what is our uniqueness to this, is really focusing on the personalized and authenticness of those gifts that kind of come out and receive to that. I don't know about you guys. I've got a stack of gift cards by the door every time. And every time we go out and get ice cream, we forget the gift card or anything along those lines. And we really wanted to make sure that we focused on the personalization. And I'll just say it over and over and over again, because that is where you will set yourself apart from the gift box that goes out. That's the same for every individual, and it doesn't get tailored to what that person maybe is going through. So we really focus on that personalization and making it really authentic.
No, I appreciate that. That's awesome.
I saw Brianna had mentioned the word I was looking for earlier was habits. So I really appreciate that.
She's there to help you with word choice.
She has helped me more than I can even repay her. That's for sure. Yeah.
Have you had any success stories of folks that have come back to you and said, wow, this really helped to make a difference in our culture, our relationship with our team, or anything like that you've heard?
I can't say that I've had anything that has come back to say, this has changed the culture of our environment or anything along those lines. But I have had individuals come back and just, they send one, and then all of a sudden you see like 5 more come through later because of the experience that they've had. And it's the feedback that we get is it's the right time. It's the right thing that we need. It was, delivered at a time that works well for them. That's where we really focused, again, like on that authenticity. And, we have different organizations that are going through, and we're testing a few different things as well, and getting feedback from them on, what have you seen from a retention standpoint? What have you seen from, if you're sending this out to clients, what have you seen from revenue increase? And what have you seen? Have you received more referrals through that? So I think it's still a little too early to tell what we'll get back from the feedback. But, I always tell people, like, the worst case scenario, if we don't increase your revenue, we don't increase your referrals, and we don't increase your retention, you have made a positive impact on somebody's life that's going through something that maybe you can't relate to. and that's going to stick in their memory as you being the one that was able to be there for them.
If you could go back to young Mitch launching himself down this engineering course at Mizzou, what would you tell Mitch?
It's really funny, and I love my dad. He has been a huge role model in my life, and I remember him saying, it was right after I had turned 21, where we went out and got our first beer together. He goes, Mitch, these are going to be some of the best years of your life. And he told me this when I was a junior in college, so he missed the first couple of years. He's like, never miss a party. And it was a sense of, not that school isn't important, but make sure you enjoy the ride that you're having as well. So, if I were to kind of go back to young Mitch, who was 18 years old, kind of getting into the college scene, that metaphor of never miss a party, I would have really told myself to truly never miss a party, but go out and do the things that really make you alive. Not follow the footprints of what you'd kind of been told. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it's not that being an engineer is a bad thing. I just realized it wasn't the thing that brought me joy in my life. It was the thing that I felt like I needed to do to be successful. And I want to rewrite that story of what successful means. I was, again, talking with my wife this morning. There's a stigma that sometimes women need to be mothers first and then can be business people second. And she is rewriting that. But I also want to rewrite the stigma that, dads have to be business people first before they're going to be dads. And that's where I really found that the majority of my joy and love that I get to exude in this world is when I'm hanging out with my two young boys and my wife. So, who am I to tell somebody else to go out and do something because it's the right thing to do, because successful means it's a monetary success. Maybe that's a part of your success, but I truly believe that success comes from you being in that zone, that you have joy, that you're good at what you do, and you can go out and create that energy around other people that says I've gotten to speak with Mike a couple times. You can't walk away from having a conversation with Mike and feeling like $1 million. And that's kind of the thing that I want to be able to provide for other people as well, is it doesn't matter if you're an engineer, if you're sweeping the floors, if you're running a marathon, if it is putting vibes out in this world that generate other people's energy, or that zone that they can be in, that's what I want to go out and provide to this world. And I get to do some of that through More Than a Meal and through our Pickup KC opportunities. But even if I'm just having conversations with individuals that want to hear my story, I hope that I can put a presence in their life that says, this guy operates a little bit different, and it makes me really excited to be around him or other individuals, because that's ultimately where I knew I wanted to get to, was being able to be an influence on others, to inspire them to be in those zones.
I think Brendan has just some positive comments here, which are just as important as the questions. If you're still there, Brendan.
I'm here. I've got kids going on in the background.
Well, that's awesome too.
So good to see you, Mitch. I absolutely love and brag about you all the time. And I'm probably mentioning you at least a couple of times a month. What really inspired me when you and I met is how you identified an opportunity to help people. And at the same time, it's like you looked at it from two sides. You looked at it from the side of not only serving your clients, but you also collaborated with the caterer and other professionals that their business had just gone to nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I have found so just incredibly inspiring, and I brag about you quite a bit.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. Your name has popped up many, many times, and all positive things. And I really, really appreciate your support.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been an honor getting to know you, and I'm glad we connected.
Awesome. Thanks.
So if someone has this idea And we all probably on this call know people or have known people who have some idea and they're just stuck waiting. They're like, well, I'll wait until I get laid off. I'll wait until I lose this job. I'll wait until I've got enough money. And you said, to heck with it, I'm not going to wait. And so what would you say to someone who's got this idea of something that it's burning inside them and they know they ought to go do it sometime, but they just have let fear and responsibility and money hold them back?
Well, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because it was definitely not the most popular decision, I would say, across a lot of individuals that I've known. But if somebody were thinking about making this leap, I would really focus, and this is kind of after the fact of looking at this, is make sure that you have realized the financial side of things. I was blessed to be able to create a good enough pad that gave me a runway with what we were doing to where I haven't been able to take a paycheck. That's been the biggest struggle for us, is that, I'm going 9 months without a paycheck right now, and it's a little bit longer than I kind of expected. And it's not looking like the next 6 months are going to be any different from the first 9. So I would really make sure that you understand that you're going to have to sacrifice that and make sure your finances are in the right spot. Because I think it was somebody else told me, it's like, it's always longer than you think it's going to be before you can take that first paycheck. And I'm here to say that so far that is a fact. But I would also want to mention in the fact of, if your focus on this business is to create financial wealth for yourself, it really kind of ties in with that first piece of it, is you might not see that for a while. And there is a picture on Facebook the other day on the Kansas City startup page, and it really kind of honed in on the experiences or some of the events that have happened through this experience. There was a picture of a guy that was out in Vegas. I don't know if anybody knows Matt Watson or not. He's been very successful with some of the stuff he's done in the tech world here in Kansas City. But he was out in Vegas and he was playing on the slot machines, and he had the voucher where he could go turn in the voucher for the money that he had won. And on the voucher, it said, this is redeemable for $0.06. And it said, if this isn't entrepreneurialism in one picture, then I don't know what is, because it is some days where you have to celebrate the 6 cents that you brought in. It's the other days that you're down and out, and you need to lean on the individuals that believe in you and have your back. And then all of a sudden you have one day that everything worked as planned. And then you wake up the next morning, have a nice cup of coffee and say, hey, I'm going to make this 2 days in a row, and you get punched right in the teeth. So it's just a different environment that I've ever experienced. But again, I always go back to like why I did this. There are so many things that I lost from leaving my previous employer, but all of those things that I gained far outweigh what was lost. Hanging out with my wife and kids is just, it is a different type of joy than I had watching any dollar bill kind of come in through our bank account. There was a moment about 6 months after I had quit, or sitting on the couch. I usually call it quits at 4 o'clock so I can help with the boys and all of that. And I'm sitting on the couch, we're watching the 2 boys play, and I'm with my wife, and she goes, do you realize you wouldn't be home for another 2 hours? And when you would come home, you were most likely coming back from a happy hour. And it wasn't that you were drunk or anything like that, but you had alcohol on your breath. And that's what our boys were seeing, was that you would tell them your most valued relationship, or they were the most important thing in your life, but you would show up 2 hours later and you would smell like alcohol. That was not a good role model for my boys. And it brought me to tears when I was sitting on the couch and just realizing, like, I'm missing these 2 hours of my boys, and like, they grow so fast. And I know everybody says like blank and they'll be, adults with kids. And I'm really trying not to blink right now so that I can enjoy those moments with them. So I know the original question was, what would you tell that person that wants to make that leap? I would really say, make sure that you're ready not to take a paycheck for a long time. Make sure that the reason you're doing this is not to go out and create money, because when the money's not coming in, you still have to have the drive to go out and create what you need to create. And 3, focus on those things that are most important to you. And if it will put you in a zone that allows you to be able to focus on those things that are most important to you, then I would maybe recommend quitting. It's if you can handle those 3 things, or they all align, I say go for it, because being on the other side, it is one of the most fun things that I've done. And the running joke that I tell everybody is, I've never been more happy, less stressed, making no money in my life. And this is the first time I've experienced that. And I love it. I love it.
You talked about that there were a lot of people that disagreed. And I know I've had the same experience in the past, making change where people tell you what a mistake it is. But I assume you've been able to find people who are positive role models and positive messengers, and that encourage you too. How important is it to find people and surround yourself with those positive people?
I probably still wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have those individuals. The tough days, the days where you do see the 6th sense roll through, that's when I lean on people and say, this isn't working. Like, what am I doing? What's the next step? Why am I doing that? If you hadn't had that decision of like, have I made the wrong decision? Then you're probably not pushing yourself enough, because it has been a journey. But yeah, having a group of business advisors to help me bounce ideas off of things that they have already experienced. I always kind of talk about this in regards to, I want to find the individual that's already walked through the minefield and can tell me where not to step. That's how I am able to get to where I'm at and know that the end result is going to be worth it, because they've already made it through. That's the thing that keeps driving me. That's the importance of mentorship in my life, to be able to pick me up when you have been punched multiple times in a day, and they say, you're doing it, man. Get back up and keep going. Like, it can be incredibly frustrating at times, but I definitely wouldn't be continuing the process if I didn't have somebody that's been through what I've been through, and had the success of time, had the success of a healthy marriage, had the success of being involved with their kiddos. And then ultimately, if it leads to financial success as well, then even better.
Well, I've had the unique opportunity to see you over the last 10 years, and it's not like you did this from arising out of failure. You were pretty awesome as a sales engineer, and we're doing a lot of really cool things. And so I'm proud of you and happy for you, and happy to see you happy. I think it's awesome that you're doing this courageous thing to go build a business.
Thanks, Randy. I remember sitting down at Cozy's Cafe after, it was still before I had left Midwest Machinery, but I was definitely, and I think you knew that I was alluding towards walking away to really kind of pursue this. And it was kind of actually watching your story as well, that, if I fail at this, I'm going to blame you because you told me that I could quit and everything would be all right. But I'm just kidding. I would never blame you on that. But I saw you as an individual that had done what I previously was wanting to go out and accomplish. You had had the success, you had had the corner office, and then all of a sudden you were gone and you were starting your business in Kansas. And it just really inspired me in the fact that maybe whatever is up there is not always necessarily worth it. And with several other people that have kind of inspired me in that space too, I had to look at the different lifestyle that individuals were living and determine if that title, if that office was the lifestyle that I wanted versus the paycheck that I wanted. So I definitely give you props to Randy, just on inspiring me, and obviously several other people, and what you've done with this podcast, and just, the stories that I hear about you bumping into other people and having coffee and you're putting a lot of good vibes out there as well.
Well, it's awesome to know you, Mitch, and I'm excited to see where you take the business. And I know there are big things ahead for you as you continue to adapt and grow and build relationships and make a difference in people's lives.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, I'm really excited and happy to just meet with anybody to, you know, kind of hear their story and message. And, you know, if there's ways that I can help other individuals, not even in regards to my business, but if there's other areas that I can help introduce or pick somebody up on a bad day, or if they're looking to quit and walk away, then I'm always happy to kind of give a little bit more detail into my story as well.
And do you have room for more awful basketball players?
Always, always. Yeah, we'll have about 30 to 35 running tomorrow morning down at Hy-Vee Arena. And if you've never touched a basketball, or if you're able to dunk, you are welcome to come out and we'll have a good time and get to meet some new people. I also have some joint health vitamins that really help afterwards as well when the knees really hurt.
Awesome. Well, great to see you, Mitch, and great to spend time again with everyone. You all have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week. And thanks, Mitch, for spending time with us.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, everybody, for letting me talk about my story.
Bye, everybody.